course, we're all very excited to know that Indonesia will next be facing Uzbekistan in the semifinal of the Asian Under-23 Cup, which takes place later on today. And to find out more about the strengths and weaknesses of both teams and how they're going to approach tonight's fixture, and also with the slight evaluation of their previous matches, we're now welcoming back friend of the program from Ruang Taktik, tactical analyst Yusuf Raihan. Good morning, Mas Raihan. Come on in and welcome. Good to have you back. It's always good to have you because it means that we are still in the competition.
So I'm a good sign then.
Exactly. You bring us good luck, just like their New Jersey. So before we discuss the upcoming match later, we like to always kind of look back and see their previous performances. So let's talk about this. It was a nail-biter, so to speak. It went all the way to penalties, went through all of their players, and it came out on top. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts on our victory against South Korea last week.
Yeah, obviously it was a great result for our boys. Obviously, like defeating South Korea is a really great achievement. Going to the semifinals for the first time, I think, in Indonesia's history in this tournament. So that is definitely a huge result. That is a booster for our mentality as well, that we can also defeat those big guys, those big players like from South Korea, because they were perfect in the group stages as well.
Correct.
They had 3 wins from 3 matches, so it was not an easy task, definitely, but you know, our young boys shined through, and they were definitely the better team, I think. We had more shots on target, we had more of the possession of the ball, so it was a great result. It was also a great performance we were not lucky in that match. We were deservedly the better team,
right?
And we got the result as well.
Yeah, I mean, South Korea, I believe they had been going to the Olympics since '96.
Yeah.
So for us to be able to be the ones knocking them out of the tournament is already history in itself. And of course, this goes hand in hand with head coach Shin Tae-yong's prediction. Many thought he was predicting a little bit too high for his team to be able to reach the semifinals, and they did exactly that.
I think I was one of them as well.
Hey,
I'm not gonna lie.
We all had our doubts because this is very historical. What do you think was the key to Indonesia's victory in the match, especially when it comes to the key players? Obviously, we mentioned one of them. And following that, what are some of the weak points that could be exploited that we need to address?
So yeah, I think like the main reason is that we were really organized in the offensive structure. So we had wide overload. So we would pile up our players in the flanks. So that caused chaos, that caused problems on the South Korea team. And defensively, they didn't adjust well. They didn't match up well against us. And also, I think that the players are the biggest, the biggest factors here.
Yeah.
Because we have players now like Rafael Strauch, we have players like Ivor Jenner, Nathan Chow-on, and also we don't forget someone like Rizky Ridho and Marcelo Ferdinand, who is really, they are quality players. And I think that Shin Tae-yong has really managed them well. He has nurtured them well from the young boys in like 2021, from he first came into the managerial job in Indonesia to now, like they are becoming men right now.
Yeah.
And we are seeing it with our own eyes.
We literally saw them grow in front of our eyes when first head coach Shin Tae-yong got appointed. And, it's a very good point that you make in regards to the local-born players and the naturalized players. There isn't really that gap that we, tend to see sometimes when it comes to these teams, right?
Yeah. And it's a positive sign as well that maybe the players from abroad, they have brought in that mentality.
Absolutely.
That underdog mentality that we should not be scared of other teams.
Right.
So, yeah.
And it's rare to see a team like South Korea be a little bit worn down. A lot of my friends were saying, wow, I can't believe we were able to wear them down. With all the passing, they were looking a little bit tired later on in the match as well. Usually, a lot of Indonesian football fans feel that that's happening to our players. Yeah. And there, we seem to have flipped the table as well, right?
Yeah, and it's great to see because that is a sign of a good team,
Right.
That we can control the match. We are the ones who are, having the control of the game.
Right.
We are setting the pace, we are setting the tempo, and that is something that I've never seen from any other Indonesian team before.
So any weak points that you think maybe should be addressed before tonight's match, because we have a totally different opponent tonight?
So yeah, I think that one of the problems is that we are pretty weak defensively, especially on the right-hand side, because I think individually, our right wing backs, maybe like Rio Fahmi or Fajar Faturrahman, they aren't exactly the best individual defenders. So that might be something that can be a problem for us in the Indonesia versus Uzbekistan match, because they also do quite attack a lot down the flanks.
Right.
And they do focus a lot more on the right-hand side. So I think that can be something that plays a part in this game. I think that Uzbekistan might have, saw that, and they might see that, we can exploit this. And I think that is one of the problems. And also I think that not exactly an Indonesia problem, but this is Uzbekistan being really good, being really organized. That is something that can be a problem for us as well, because they are really aggressive and they are really physical. And we will discuss about that when we are going to talk about Uzbekistan.
Okay, so speaking of Uzbekistan then, I mean, it was no easy path for them. They took down the holders, Saudi Arabia. Tell me what you saw in their match against Saudi Arabia and what we should have perhaps be a little bit more aware of.
So yeah, I think like my first impression is this team is, wow, they are really physical.
Right.
But not in terms of like the strength, like pound for pound, but in terms of the way they press really aggressively, they suffocate other teams. Maybe the perfect word is suffocate, because they don't let other teams play like comfortable passes.
And take them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, take them out of, get their opponents out of the rhythm. And I think that we can go into the slides.
Okay, let's check out some of the visuals that you brought for us here, because we could perhaps see as well maybe some of the weak points from Uzbekistan as well that we might be able to capitalize on. Let's go to our first one.
So here, I think like maybe we will go first for the offensive structure. So here, I think I might have discussed about this with you in the Australia preview. So this is pretty similar to what Australia did, in which that they do not have the fullbacks really up high, but just here, because they want to have that connectivity between these players, the center backs and the wingers, and also they want to have that structure. So if they lose the ball, they have these players positioned well to deal with that counterattacks. And also, can we go to the next slide?
Let's clear this up first. Okay, can we go to the next slide?
So here, with that structure, it helps them in trying to exploit the wide areas. And that is one of the areas that I mentioned before that can be a problem for us. So because here, you have these three players, like a 5-3-2 block from Vietnam, and that meant that there is a lot of wide spaces here. And if they can circulate the ball quickly into the other side, and like boom, and boom here, then this is a problem. He has to deal with two defenders. And the thing is that with this structure, then the midfield, he has to be really aware. He has to be quick. He has to be front-footed in trying to press and deal with these two.
Whose responsibility would that be in this coming matchup, do you think?
So I think like Indonesia will play a different defensive structure. So Indonesia will most probably play like in a 5-4-1 instead of a 5-3-2. So Indonesia might have an extra man here, but that would mean less bodies up front, which means that we cannot put on the pressure as much.
Cannot play as offensively.
Yeah, cannot play as offensively. We cannot play as aggressively against Uzbekistan. But that is something that Vietnam actually did in the second half, and they dealt better.
They were more successful.
They were more successful with those defensive structure. And also, I think another feature of their offensive structure is that they do always have 5 players up front. So they want to fill in all the corridor here. So if I draw something like this, then you have a player.
Oh, you have a player on each of those slots.
Yeah. So that gives problems for especially teams with 4-man defensive line.
You're going to have at least one unmarked guy, possibly.
But obviously with Indonesia playing 5 at the back, then we have at least that we can match up numerically with them. So yeah, maybe let's
Okay,
go
let's
to
move
the
on.
next slides. So here, another example of the 5-3-2 block getting exploited by the player out wide here.
Right.
And yeah, that is something that we should be aware of.
Again, so this can shift from one side to another. Earlier we saw the right flank a little bit more open. Now we're seeing it on the left side because they are kind of loading now to the right.
Yeah, and that is like one of the main reasons on why Uzbekistan played with this offensive structure, because they can circulate the ball quickly and then they would try to attack the flanks and maybe send in crosses.
Okay.
And let's go to the next slide. So here, I think that it can be playing like with that offensive structure can be a little bit stagnant.
Okay.
But with Uzbekistan, they have the intelligence as well to rotate positionally. What I meant by that is when a striker, like here, in this case, when a striker, his original position is here, right? Then he drops to this area. And this is basically the center midfield area. But then they like switch roles.
I see. Yeah, I can see that here.
So every player has an assignment that they have to fill in their zones. So it's what we call positional play in football, in that there are certain areas that has to be filled all times.
Okay.
But regardless of the players, it does not depend. But there are predetermined zones in the...
so it's not defined as by the players, but by the repositioning instead.
Yeah. So that is basically what Pep Guardiola is using.
Right. Okay.
And maybe a lot of managers has been using that. So here, like when the strikers drop into this area, it gives confusion for the other team, for the marker. So maybe this is the original guy who picks up this man. But because he drops it really deep, then that means he has to
switch up.
He has to switch. But then the attention here is now, look, he is looking at this guy. He's looking at this guy.
Right.
He's looking at this guy. And no one is looking after him because he has made a deep run, which caused confusion, especially for this player, because his original man is this guy.
And he's now distracted.
But he's now distracted with this because he is in the area in which he has to defend in. So yeah,
Brilliant.
I think this is something that Uzbekistan has done really well so far in this tournament, in that the relationship, the chemistry between these players are really on point. And I think that we can move to the next slide.
So the key, I mean, the key to something like this would be communication between our players. They have to be really quick in knowing when to switch off and when to pick up.
And it's all down into the training ground.
Right.
I think. So it's like an automatization. Okay. So here, the striker as well, he's originally here, but he then, maybe it's weird that he goes into the ball possessor.
Yeah.
Because generally you want to be more spaced out.
Yeah, you want to space yourself.
But here, what he is doing with this subtle movement is that he wants to open up a passing lane here. So if he's just here or just here, then this guy might be more comfortable. He might deal with the ball better, with the pass better, if he can be just here.
Right.
But you know, these movements, these positional rotations, it confuses the other teams, and that meant if in football just a little bit of space, it can change the game, right? So here, like Lionel Messi pass in the semi-final, quarter-final game against the Netherlands.
That's right.
So maybe that's the extreme example. It's Lionel Messi, but
an anomaly.
Just a little bit of space here, just a little bit of movement can open up space here. And if this is a good pass, then this is a clear-cut chance.
Right.
So yeah, we have to be really aware of that positional rotations. Maybe it's predetermined zones, it's maybe predetermined areas, but it's still really confusing to deal with.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, maybe we can move on to the next slide.
Sure.
So here, also, when Uzbekistan do attack down the flanks here, so here is the ball possessor. The thing that we have to be aware of, or Indonesia has to be aware of, is that the far side player, because we mentioned before that Uzbekistan will have players like down the flanks, out wide here, right? Because they want to fill all that corridor. But when in the final third, the player out wide here, they will move inwards and try to attack this man, to attack the most out wide player, in the hopes of that they are too focused on the ball. So yeah, we also have to be aware of that. And I think the next example, the next slide, will cover that as well. Yeah, so this is actually the goal from Uzbekistan against Vietnam. Actually, this guy scored the goal, but this player moving inwards caused some confusion for the marker here, for number 2. And this is basically a 2v1, and yeah.
Very difficult to beat.
Yeah.
Look, we're running out of time before we wrap up, though. I want to talk to you a little bit in regards to 2 things. We know that we are now losing Rafael Struck because of a yellow card accumulation. Who do you think will replace him by Coach Shin Tae-yong, and is that what impact is it going to have? You think?
Okay, so I think that we don't have any like-for-like replacement because he's a different type of striker.
Okay.
I would liken him to Ollie Watkins from Aston Villa.
Okay.
But we don't have someone like that for the substitutes. So Ramadan Sananta isn't exactly that. Hoki Caraka isn't exactly that. But I think that because we have to match up, we have to, adjust to their physicality for the duels. I think Ramadan Sananta might suit better in this game. My guts are saying Ramadan Sananta will start, but I would not be surprised if Hoki Caraka is preferred to him, or even Witan Sulaiman plays as the striker, because he is more similar as a profile to Rafael Struck than the other strikers.
Okay. So let me get your prediction. We're always then going to end our conversations with some predictions. Let me get your prediction for a scoreline.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here.
I know, it's really tough.
1-0.
1-0, okay.
1-0, Indonesia.
Okay, I'm going to go 2-1 Indonesia because, again, last time I predicted, we're here in the knockout rounds, it's not going to be a high-scoring game, but sometimes we do get some high-scoring anomalies.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be 2-1 because both of us are rooting for Indonesia, and hopefully we'll have a conversation with you in regards to who will Indonesia face in the finals. But nevertheless, it's great to have you on as always and get your analysis on Breakdown. And don't forget, guys, to tune in. The match is kicking off tonight, local time. It's 8:30, is it correct?
9.
9 o'clock, local time. There you go, guys. So make sure, if you are here in Indonesia, to support our young Garuda squad out there in Qatar. We got to take a short break here, but we'll bring you more world headlines when we return on the C Morning Show.